Reclaimed is the podcast about the woman's journey of reclaiming her power through somatic work, breathwork, plant medicine, and conversations. I am Kyla Gagnon, and this is Reclaimed. Hello, sweet friends. Welcome back to the conversation. Today I have the sweet Jessica Janty on the podcast. Jessica and I met, as I meet most of my new friends and guests, on Instagram. And we're actually teaming up. She's running a free summit in November. So just in about a week's time from today, if you're listening to this live on November 4th. And I am participating in that. So I'm going to put the show notes, or the details, in the show notes of that beautiful summit. It is called the Worthiness Project. So a little bit about Jessica. Jessica's a transformative coach, healer, and a breathwork facilitator with over 20 years of experience as a registered nurse, which is such a cool addition to this work. She specializes in helping visionary women, entrepreneurs, and healers who feel burnt out, stuck, or disconnected reclaim their power, you know I'm here for this, and create a life of freedom, fun, and fulfillment. Through a unique blend of body-based healing, intuitive coaching, and spiritual guidance, Jessica empowers her clients to unlearn societal conditioning, embrace their true selves, and find deep connection within. Her work fosters sisterhood, whole body healing, and a journey towards embodying one's worthy, wild, and wealthy self. So please enjoy the conversation. And of course, check the show notes to register for the free summit. It's happening over 3 days. And I do have a discount code because there is an opportunity to upgrade for lifetime recordings of the calls. There's going to be, oh my gosh, over a dozen speakers over the course of 3 days. So would love to see you in there. I'm going to be facilitating a session on November 13th at 3 p.m. Pacific time. All right. Enjoy the convo. Welcome, Jessica. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah, I think, if I'm being honest, like most of the people, if not all of the women that I've had on the podcast have come through Instagram relationships, which is amazing, right? Because I don't know your relationship to Instagram, but I've definitely had moments where I'm like, man, I don't want to be on Instagram anymore. Like I just want to throw the phone away, get off the internet, and it has brought me like so many amazing women and humans. So yeah.
Relationship with it. I say I love it at times and I hate it at others. I feel like I can just go down a rabbit hole where I'm like, I'm just gonna go post something, and then I like get sucked in. Where does the 30 to an hour, however long I stay on there? And I'm like, shoot, I had so much to do.
Totally. Or the amount of times that I'll go to open maybe my phone, maybe actually like Instagram, with the intention of actually doing something. Like I have a task I'm going in for, and then I get lost in the scroll and I'm like, I have no idea what I was even coming in here to do.
Yes.
So then the task just doesn't even get done. But we found each other. Thank you for existing on Instagram.
Thank you for finding
Yeah. So we'll go like all into your story and all of those really fun things. But first, I would love to ask you, what are you currently reclaiming?
Ooh, what am I currently reclaiming? That's a great question. I feel like I'm in this place of there's lots of conditioning in my life, or I come from lots of conditioning, I should say. And so reclaiming the power that I truly have that I haven't allowed myself to feel into, or I was too scared of it. I think I was really scared of the power that I hold. And so I played small for a very long time. So I'm definitely here. My birthday is coming up in a few weeks, and I'm like, this is my new year. This is my new year to just claim and reclaim me and who I am in my fullest essence.
Yes. Here for that. Yeah. I think that's really common for women. It's like we're not afraid of like trying and failing. We are afraid of the power and the capabilities that we hold. Yeah. I think it's so common. Yeah. Okay, so you have a little, like we've gotten to know each other a little bit through our cute little voice notes on Instagram. And I know that you had a career in health and wellness and the healthcare system in our traditional Western healthcare system, which I think it Yeah. Anyways, I'll let you speak. We don't need to go into any of it. I don't need to go into any of it. I'll let you speak on that. But now you're working in
Yeah.
a completely different world. I would love to have you share your story a little bit.
Yeah. So I do come from, I'm a nurse by background. I've been a nurse for, well, it was 20 years in May.
Wow.
But 3 years ago, I stopped practicing in Western medicine. Specifically, I worked in a hospital, primarily ICU, and then I went and worked in a department called interventional radiology. And I think when I switched to that department, it wasn't my true passion. And I think ever since then, excuse me, I wasn't sure where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do. But I didn't know that there was another way out. Like, I just thought, I come from a background of my family owned a business. You work in the same job your whole life. You basically die doing what you're doing.
Mhm.
And so at least that was like what I felt like I was meant to do. I was meant to be a nurse. I should just stay being a nurse, and that's all that there was. I didn't really think that there was anything outside of nursing for me.
Yeah.
So a lot of things, different things happened. I was really burnt out, overwhelmed, which I now know is basically my soul and my body, mind, everything were just at war with each other.
Mhm.
I think I knew that I was made to do more than I was doing, but I sat in fear for a very long time. I did not know how to get out of what I was doing. I didn't know what else I could be doing. I didn't even allow myself to think about it. I was just so busy, the constant going. I worked 12-hour shifts. I had two little kids, and there was just not time. I didn't ever take time for me to sit and think of what I wanted.
Yeah.
I grew up very much this, you tell me where I should go, what I should do, and I'll do that. I called myself a chameleon. Now that I look back, I'm like, I just was what everybody else told me I needed to be and how I needed to show up. And so, yeah, it was one of the scariest decisions I've ever made in my whole life, but I ended up quitting. I didn't have a job to back me up. I literally was just like, I'm just going to go for it. My husband actually gave me a big push because he was like, you were miserable. I
Mhm.
don't like to be around you. The kids don't want to be around you. And that was a huge wake up call for me. Like, you're right. I do. I don't want to say hate because hate is a very strong word. I just was in a place where I wasn't aligned with what I
Mhm.
wanted to do. My soul was really begging for me to move. And so COVID happened, lots of different things happened, and I quit. And so when I say that, it sounds like it was so easy, but it wasn't. It was like the hardest decision I've ever made.
I bet.
Yeah. And
I bet.
so now I ended up becoming a coach. I found through the wonderful world of social media, I found a coaching certification program. So I became a nurse coach. And then I just saw myself like, oh, it's nursing related. I can do
Mhm.
this. And then I found a coach of my own, and it just kind of led me down this rabbit hole of like, there's a whole nother world outside of Western medicine. I
Yeah.
didn't know much about different modalities of healing, different ways of healing, that my nervous system was completely fried. Like, I didn't know any of this. I didn't know
Yeah.
that talk that we talk about now from being breathwork facilitators, because I know that you are as well, just this
Mhm.
nervous system and how our body, like, I lived in my sympathetic was on all the time.
Yeah.
Constant go, constant fight or flight. I mean, yeah, you know how that is.
I really get that. I really
Yeah,
get
and
that.
so then and breathwork kind of found me. It
As it does.
Yes, it did. It was definitely what I needed. It was what I
Mhm.
needed. I was that person that I could not, people would be like, "Oh, just try to meditate." I was like, "I can't do that. I can't sit still for more than a minute. I don't know. My mind is constantly playing all the crazy scenarios in my head." And something I said to somebody in third grade on the playground, or, like, just crazy things would come up.
Yeah.
And so breathwork found me, and it was like I came home to my body, and I was like, wow, this is what I need. And then as I did it more, I'm like, this is what I want to share with the world.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a condensed version, but
And so I really relate to it founding you and having was your like did was it but let me
yeah,
use my words again. For me, that it was like one session and it was like, oh, was that the same for you?
100%. I went to a yoga studio close to me,
Mhm.
and because, like, the coach that I had opened up our sessions with some breath. She would call it breath work. We would do like 10 minutes where we would just sit and do breath work, and I'd never done it before.
Mhm.
I loved that. I loved how she opened it every time. And then,
Mhm.
so when I saw it at our yoga studio, I'm like, oh, breathwork, I've heard of this. Let's go, let's try this. And literally one session, and I was like, what was that? Like, whoa.
Yes.
Yes,
Yep.
I went back the next month and I'm like, okay, if I have the same experience, and not the same experience, because I want to caveat that there are no two experiences the same. And
Mhm.
now that I'm a facilitator and I know when people come back to my sessions, I try to caveat, don't expect the same thing that happened to you in the first session to happen to you in the second. If you're looking for this experience or this like aha or this like emotional release, like sometimes that doesn't happen, but
Yeah.
sometimes it does. And so, but the second session was just as powerful, maybe not as much of an emotional release, but just as powerful. And so I asked her, I'm like, how did you do this? I want to do this. Like, how do I
Mhm.
do it? And so she hooked me up with the place that she did it at. And so then I did it. I became certified. It was a crazy intense like 6 months of doing breathwork literally every day and then facilitating and being facilitated. And it was such a beautiful experience that, yeah, I just want to share it with the world. So,
I get it.
yeah.
I so get it. Okay, so what is life like now for you? Like how is your how is your nervous system now that you're not in that old way of go, 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 go? Like, did it take you a while to,
Mm.
what was that journey like to like come back into
Yeah,
this place of stillness?
that's a great question. So I would say, so when you go on a breathwork journey and you really do this deep healing work, so I had no idea what this healing work was. I didn't know that I needed it. I got myself into this program and then I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
It was like, what is life? Is anything real? What is going on? I was just like, went down this whole rabbit hole of like between coaching and breath work of like,
Yeah.
oh, there is so much healing that needs to be done. But then also not getting caught up in the healing, being allowed to heal and grow and then allow to help others alongside me. I think that's been like the most beautiful part of it all.
Hmm.
But it took me a while to be able to go through a breathwork session and to be in it and fully let go and allow what needed to happen to happen. The first session that I had during the program, she guided us through, it was like an hour session, and she guided us to finding safety in our body. And I remember the whole time thinking, I don't know, she didn't talk about it much before, and I could not get out of my head. The whole hour, I sat there being like, I don't know how I find safety. I don't know what she's talking about because she kept talking about not finding it in other people or in other things, but find it in yourself. And I could not stop thinking about what that meant for me. I had no idea. And so I think it was a beautiful, I think what happened is exactly what needed to happen because I needed to learn how to find safety in my body. And so over that next 6 months, I really dove deep into just doing breath work. I don't think I coached much at all. I think I just really immersed myself in this modality and healing my body and healing my nervous system. And I mean, I feel 100% like a different person. I feel like I am fully embodied in who I am. There are still times where I get fear and doubt and imposter syndrome and, oh, this person is doing it better than I could do. Like there's still those fears that come in, but I am in such a place that if a trigger comes or if something happens, I don't react. Like I come from a very reactive past. I was brought up in a very reactive home. And that's how I was with my kids because that's the only way that I knew.
Yeah.
And so I remember being in breathwork in the facilitation program and feeling this deep guilt and shame of like, I've been such a reactive person to my kids and to my husband and to people around me without knowing that it was basically my nervous system was constantly in this fried out state. And so once I learned how to regulate, and that's not saying that I'm always in the parasympathetic, that I'm always in the rest and digest. It's this flow, this ease and flow of like, okay, I can regulate myself out of this activated state and come into
Mhm.
this non-activated state. So I think that's what's so beautiful about it is that it's a tool that we have to be able to guide our own body through anything that comes up. And so I don't know if I fully answered your question there, but a
I loved it.
lot of words.
At this point, I'm like, I don't even remember my question, but
Yeah,
this was
it's what it needed to be. Yeah.
it's so 100%. I could talk about breath work all day, like all day, every day. Does your husband do breath work?
He has done sessions that I've
Mhm.
had. but it's not his favorite thing. So he is very much he's still in his go, go, go state. He is a very busy bee type person. And so being in a breath work and taking that time out for him is really hard. So he will do it, but it's not his favorite thing. So,
Okay. I appreciate that. I get that.
yeah.
All in the right timing, I
Yes,
think.
100%. Yes. He's still in this like making money, got it, and like very much in the masculine making the
Yeah.
money, especially because as over the last 3 years, I mean, I went from making, what I was making in nursing, in the nursing profession, to then quitting my job, not having any income for a while because I didn't have, a backup plan. I basically just quit. Then I went through the 6 months of breathwork training. And so he basically was carrying us for a while where I'm, starting this business, really getting it going. And not a lot of people know about breathwork. So when
Yeah.
you talk about it, especially in the area that I'm in, it's very, it's just nobody. I mean, there is the one lady that is doing breathwork, but she does it maybe once a month. And it just wasn't something that was very talked about. And so bringing that awareness and why people need it and why it's important, I think that's something that I'm trying to do more and more in my community and online too. So
And so are you predominantly working with like nurses? Are you working with medical professionals? Or are you working with everyone?
so that's interesting because when I became a nurse coach, I'm like, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna help other nurses. But I think because I was so burnt out from being in Western medicine and
Mhm.
because of how everything went down with me leaving and just how I felt in that time and how I felt, I kind of had this wall up where I was like, I don't want to go into the hospital because at first I thought like, oh, I could help people in the health. I could go into corporate, in the hospitals and do all this stuff. And then for a while, I just had this block, like that's not what I want to do. Like I want to go with, I want to work with people who want to do the deep healing work. And so it's not to say that I ever won't do that. I do have, there's a nurse coach community that I'm part of. So I am connected with some nurse coaches and I've gone into their group coaching sessions and done breath work and things, but I don't specifically work with nurses. I work with any woman who is on this journey and who's really here to do her healing work. Like I say, visionaries, it doesn't have to be somebody that owns their own business or an entrepreneur, but it can be anybody on their healing journey that really is like, okay, I'm here to do the work and maybe I don't know exactly where to start, but like I want to do the work and I'm here. Like that's who I love to work with because they
Yeah.
know that they're like, yes, I want to do this work. Maybe I just don't know how to do it, but I'm here for it.
Okay, my love, can you even believe that the year is almost over? We are getting so close to 2025. And for those of you who have a business, those of you who are female entrepreneurs, maybe you have a side project, side hustle, passion project, or maybe just a full time, not even just, maybe a full time gig. And we're coming up to a new year, which means let's excavate and get really clear on what our goals are. I run a mastermind called Your First 100K Mastermind, and inside you have one monthly mastermind call with the crew. You have 2 co-working sessions every month where we get on Zoom and we spend 4 hours just in full work mode on our businesses. You receive a 30-minute coaching call with me. I call it the Get Shit Done coaching call. And then you also have your WhatsApp community where we get to actually stay in mastermind energy all year long. If this is for you, price is going to be changing in January. Right now you can get in for $197 a month. January we're going to be going up to $397 a month. So now is the time. Lock in before the new year. Let's get serious about this business and for once and for all show up like the absolute goddess, badass boss that I know you are. I don't know if this is fully a question or if it's more of like an open question statement that we can go into, but I'll speak for myself. Before I found breathwork, I would have put money on I didn't need to heal. I was totally okay. Everything was fine. Had it together, had a job, was making money. Everything on the outside looked great, and I believed that it was totally okay. And I mean, without going into my story, like I did have this like aching for something deeper and something more, but in terms of like healing, I had, which now on the outside, I'm like, oh, you totally needed to be healing deeper. I had like pedestaled myself on top of people who weren't doing the work because I was in self-development. I was totally reading the books. I was doing the things. I was checking off all the boxes, but I wasn't integrating or embodying any of it. But because I'd like read the books,
Yeah.
I put myself, and I had like a couple communication skills I could pop in there, which made me appear to be more
Yeah.
evolved than generally romantic partners, is really where this came out at for me. I totally thought I was fine together. Didn't really have much to heal.
Mhm.
And then breathwork was like,
Yeah.
so my thought is like, I don't think I'm alone in that. I think there's a lot. And I think even you didn't use those words specifically, but when you started breathwork, it was that like, wow, there's so much that actually needs tending to that we can be really unaware of. So again, I don't know if this is a question so much as
Yeah.
like
I mean,
people
I'll speak to
we
it a little bit for
yeah.
sure. So I don't think so. In my nursing era, in the
Mhm.
Western medicine model,
Mhm.
um, I mean, if you would have told me I'd be here sitting here talking to you, I would have thought you were crazy. If I would, anybody would have told me I
Yeah.
would be doing this work, I would have thought you were crazy because it's a very close-minded community, a very close, I don't want to say community, but just Western medicine in general.
Mhm.
And we hear what the doctors have to say. We hear what, even nurses or anybody in it has to be a scientific research and it has to be, studies and all of this stuff. And that's where I come from. And so if you would have brought up like, oh, you need to do this work, you need to do this healing, it would have been like, oh, that's silly, that's woo woo, like that crazy word that, people would use for doing this stuff, which I think is just a way for people in the Western medicine to be like, "Oh, I'm fine. I got it. I don't need any of that." And so I relate to it in that way. And then also when I did leave my job, I had no idea that there was this deeper healing work. And I think until you learn about it, until you feel it for the first time, I don't know that you can really wrap your mind around it
Yeah.
because body-based healing is so different than just mindset. It is
Oh
completely
yeah.
involving your whole body, getting your whole body on board. And so I think anybody really, if you haven't done that work, you feel like you are doing the best. You feel like you've got it all. You don't need anything else. And
Mhm.
then body-based healing hits you and you're like, whoa, okay, take that back.
Yeah, yeah.
Need a lot of healing.
Yeah. And it feels like I don't know if you agree with this, but when you when that happens and there's that dropping out of the head and coming back into the body, which uh, most of us are in our head a lot, all the time, maybe the whole time. And because of that, like we're disconnected from so much. But when we do, whether it be breath work or a different experience, something that does bring you back into your body and you start to access those parts and pieces and places and all of the stuff that's coming up to be seen and tended to, it's almost like, at least for me, there's just like this knowing and things happen quickly, and someone thinks about, oh, the healing journey and moving through old wounds and stories and beliefs and traumas. I don't know if I have time for that. When you start accessing it through the body, it's actually pretty quick. It's
Yeah.
like, and it's this like your body knows what to do with it. There's this like
Yes.
this magical thing that happens where it's that part of you that's bigger and grander than you, whatever people want to, title that, higher self, spirit, universe, God, like whatever that word is, that piece that's bigger and more, it comes online as soon as we tap in. And I've actually found that it has been harder and more emotionally draining and challenging to resist it and to
Mm.
stay in that I'm fine, everything's fine.
Mhm.
It's actually substantially easier and even more pleasurable to like to go in and let it move through because there's something bigger than us in charge, I believe.
100%. I feel like when I first left the hospital and I had gotten a mentor, a coach, after I had started the coaching program, I'm like, oh, okay, I think I need a coach. Like, I think I need some work. I need some help. And that year-long time that I had with this coach was one of the most difficult times because I was so in my mind.
Mm.
And I wanted to do the healing work, but I didn't know how to do it. And I remember just spiraling, and I would spend hours or days just like, what is this life and what is happening? And I don't know what to do with all of this. And then when I found breath work, and I would say when I got embodied in breath work more, is when now it's, yes, things still happen and things, my life is, there are things that still happen in my life, like would have happened before, but I'm at this place now where if they do happen, 10 minutes. 10 minutes, I go and I
Yeah.
shake it out. I can do some breath work. I can do some somatic dance. I could do whatever it is, go ground myself in the earth, take a walk outside, whatever it is. I know how to help my body now. I know how to get into my body to
Yeah.
release that. So I don't have to sit in it for days. I would sit in it for days
Yeah.
thinking like, what is going to happen? How do I get out of this? I need to like fix it in my mind. And it's that constant mind chatter. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like if we can get out of our head into our body has so much wisdom and knowledge. It's just, we are ancient beings with so much wisdom inside of us, like deep, deep wisdom,
Yeah.
if we really allow. But we have to take that time to allow it. We
Mhm.
have to take that power of the pause, I love to call it,
Mhm.
to be quiet with our body so we can listen and we can learn what our body needs and what our body wants. Because if we don't learn to listen to our body, if we don't learn how to listen to our body,
Mhm.
then when it's trying to speak to us, we just ignore it and we have no
Yeah.
idea. And then that's when we stay in that like constant loop of the mind chatter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that you call it the power of the pause. Um, I speak about how like we live in such an overstimulated, very busy, very loud society. Even sitting here, I'm like, okay, there's a computer screen, there's a window behind it, there's a vehicle, there's a road, there's a whiteboard over here, there's a microphone here, there's a plant there, there's a fur. Like there's so much stuff. I have 2 dogs coming in and out of the room. In case you see me, I'm like there's a lot of stimulation. And those magical moments in our life, the moments where the healing does happen, the moments where the pleasure does happen, the moments where the ahas happen, are in the moments of stillness, in the power of the pause, as you would say. And you speak about the power of the pause being more productive than constantly going and going. Do you have anything that you would
Yes.
share, add to that?
Yes. I love to share because this is still an ongoing process for myself.
Me too,
But
girl.
this is something that I teach people and I tell people about is we're so busy going and doing and going and doing. And when you feel like the only way to be productive, it's going back to this like production, growing up, especially, in with a family that owned a business, and there was just no sitting. Like I think we got to
Yeah,
sit on Saturday mornings. We got to watch cartoons for an hour or so. Maybe on a Friday night there was a thing called TGIF. We would watch some shows on
loved
that.
it.
But otherwise it was like you were always doing or going. Otherwise you were lazy. You couldn't
Yeah.
just sit and be still. We didn't really read books. We didn't really do any of that stuff. It was just this constant going and doing. And
Mhm.
so I think a lot of us have grown up like that. And so we as adults see that as being productive. I have to be doing or
Mhm.
I'm lazy. And so it's this whole rewiring the brain to say, no, this power of the pause is actually more beneficial than you're going and doing. Then you're just being is so powerful. And I still get caught up in it too. I'm in the process of creating this thing online, and I've caught myself a lot over this last week being like, you haven't really taken time for yourself. You were constantly going and trying to build this and grow this and all of this stuff. But like the most important piece is when you are still, when you listen, because that's when the wisdom is going to come through. And so it's constantly just reminding myself of that as well, because that's what I teach people. That's what I want the world to be able to feel is this, we go to other countries and they'll do tea time or they take naps in the afternoon or like they understand that just being in stillness is wonderful, is safe. But our bodies are wired to feel that being still is not safe. Being
Yeah.
still or being quiet is uncomfortable because we're so used to going. Our bodies are so used to just being in this rat race and just going, 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 that when we sit still and we're quiet, it feels scary. It feels uncomfortable. Our mind starts to be like, you should be doing something. We should be going somewhere. And so it's really just rewiring the brain. It's really just telling yourself over and over and over again, like, this is important. This is even more important than the going and the doing. Just like if you would have a child or like a new baby, like as I remember as a new mom thinking like, oh, I have to go and do this. I have to go and do this. And if I could turn back time, just sitting in the being with my child was probably the most important thing that I could have done. But I
Yeah.
was constantly like, the second they would go to sleep, I'd put them down and be like, okay, I got to get 500 things done before they get up. And so
Mhm.
it's constant going. But if we really can just be in the being, it's so powerful.
It really is. And yeah, there's a lot of unlearning that our generation, I don't know how old you are, but I feel like we're maybe somewhere close. The fact that you
Yeah.
worked in nursing for 20 years, that puts you at
Like
least close to me.
I'm going to be 42 in like a few
Okay.
weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, 41. Yeah. Same, same. You look incredibly young. I just have to say, I
Thank
thought you
you,
were in your
though. I would have
20s.
never guessed you would
It's
be
like,
42 there.
this girl's 25 for sure. Yeah, there's so much unlearning, and it goes way back. Like, it goes way back. There's a reason. Oops. And you described it with your family. Like, there's really good reason that there's a part of you that wants to be going all the time, because she learned that little girl learned that this is how we do it, and she learned it really, really well. She did a really good job. She learned the things, and your parents would have learned it from there. Like, it all makes so much sense. And if we go way back, it all comes from a survival state. Like, they're running from something. Everyone was running from something.
Yeah.
And we live in a time where we don't really need to, thankfully, living where we live, let's just like state that we currently don't have to run from anything.
Mhm.
And we still, for whatever reason, find ways to make it a lot harder for ourselves than it needs to be. I remember having a conversation with a woman. This is a little bit side tangent, but also I feel like is important and like kind of relevant. I was in a relationship with someone like years ago who was not maybe the nicest seed and not for me. And I went for lunch with a girlfriend of mine, and she was probably 20 years older than me. So very maternal and really like awesome and like badass, and just like says it how it was. And I was kind of telling her about my situation. And she's like, Kyla, life will give you hard. Like, why are you choosing it? Why are you choosing an extra layer of hard? Like, life will give it to you. It's going to happen anyway. Why are you choosing it? It's like, damn. Yeah. And so just to think of how are all of the ways in which we are actually consciously or subconsciously choosing life to be harder. And for those who maybe are resistant to breath work, seeing as you and I are both madly in love with this work, that's actually harder. Like, I promise that is actually choosing harder.
Mhm.
And it is so much lighter on the other side when you're able to let some of it go. Is breath work for everyone? I like to think it is, but maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe not in this lifetime. It might not be everyone's medicine of choice. And I still think that there's release in that. There's space to show you on the other side how easeful it can be, how good it can feel.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
It's getting people on board with it. It's getting people, I had someone that I talked to not too long ago, and I was telling her about breath work and that you have to, you feel the feelings, feel it to heal it. And she's like, no, that's not for me. I don't want to do that.
Oh,
And that
I
was
have
hard
thoughts.
because she's had some disease and sickness and illness in her life. And
Mhm.
you and I both know that that's disease and illness and sickness comes from shoving all these feeling downs,
Mhm.
not feeling the feelings, just our lifestyle in general, what we are putting in our body, on our body, what we're listening to,
Mhm.
all of it contributes.
Mhm.
But if we can allow the healing that can happen through breath work, through that release of our breath.
Yeah.
Like there's so much healing there if we
Yeah.
allow it. Like, yes, it might be uncomfortable,
Yeah.
but it's not going to kill you. Like it's going to make you stronger.
Yeah. Yeah. I say that in breath. I'm like, an emotion might come up and it might be uncomfortable, but I promise it's not too much.
Yeah.
Like, I promise it's not too much.
Mhm.
I just had a thought and it's gone. That's okay. That's okay. Oh, it's like right there. Oh, that makes me crazy. The thought is like right on the tip of my tongue. It's fine. If it comes back, I'll
Yeah.
say it. I would love to know two things before we close up. I would love to know, like, is there even maybe an answer to this? What has been the most profound or maybe the most surprising benefit that bringing this work into your life has been, breath work? Maybe outside of even the more, because sure, we might say, oh, I did 6 months of breath work and I was able to heal that childhood story of XYZ. And that can be like quite tangible. And I know that you know this, I believe that you do, that then the ripple like shows up in your life in so many other ways. And so I'm curious, yeah, what comes to mind being like the most profound or most um, ripple effect of breathwork in your life?
I think being open. I feel like breathwork has allowed me to be open to anything and everything, the possibilities, which is something that I never would have said.
Mm-hmm.
Coming from, I didn't speak about this, but I come from, traditional Western medicine. I also come from a very strict religious background. And that was very, very close-minded. You do what you are told and you don't
Mm-hmm.
question and all of that. And so through breathwork, I just would go into sessions and saying, I just want to be open. Like, whatever is here for me. I even went through this period of time where I was like, I don't even know if there's a God.
Mm-hmm.
What even is this? When I did grow up very much believing in God, and I still
Mm-hmm.
do, but I had to find my own path. I was just
Yeah.
told this is how it is. You have to believe it like it is.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's one of the most beautiful things is that I have really learned what is for me
Mm-hmm.
in my own way, in my own terms, instead of
Mm-hmm.
what everybody told me I had to believe, how I had to be, who I had to be, what I had to
Yeah.
look like all of that. I think that's one of the biggest things for me is just and probably coming home to myself. I think that would be like the biggest like theme of that is just really
Mm-hmm.
coming home to who I am truly in here. So,
I love that so much. And I've made it my mission to help a million women reclaim their power. And what you just said is that, like what you just said, the way you described that, that is, that is it.
yes.
You're there.
I love it.
I remember the thing.
Yeah.
I remember the thing. It was around that resistance to breath work. And yet people will take a synthetic pharmaceutical that they don't actually know what it is. They will go sit ayahuasca, which I mean, I'm totally in support of. They will sit with different plant medicines, but they will they will drink alcohol. Like they will do
Yes.
things that are altering their internal landscape. And breath work is yours. Like that's your breath. It's literally
Yeah.
keeping you alive. Like it is your ally. It
Mm.
is your greatest, greatest, greatest ally. Like it literally keeps you alive and has your entire life.
Yeah.
And you're afraid of it?
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
your ally. It is your best friend.
Yeah. And the mentor that would teach us breath work, or the place that I went through, pause, Samantha Skelly is her name, and she would
Mm-hmm.
constantly say, getting high on your own supply, like you can get high on your own supply. Like
Yeah.
if that is something that you're looking for, instead
Mm-hmm.
of having to go do ayahuasca, which I'm in support of as well, or any other substances, like you could literally just do breath work.
I
Like
don't
it,
know how many times I've had people come to breathwork who have done multiple psychedelic journeys and have said either that was just as powerful or that was more
same,
impactful.
same. Yeah.
And it's because it's yours. Like it comes back to that, like reclaiming the power,
Yeah.
coming back to the power of yourself. Like you were saying, that's what that is. Like we don't need anything outside of ourselves. Like we keep
Right.
seeking for the answer outside
Mhm. Yes. Yeah.
and it's right here.
Yeah.
I would love for you to share with the people, like, where do we find you? What do you have going on? How can people land in your world?
So I'm on all the socials, just my name. So it's Jessica, Jante, Jnte.
Mhm.
I have a website, which is www.jessicagnt.com. So it's pretty easy to find me. I'm actually going to be putting out a summit, and I'm going to be announcing it later today. I'm just waiting for one more person's info. It is called The Worthiness Project and embodying your worthy, wild, and wealthy self. So I'm really looking forward to that. That's on November 12, 13, 14. So
Okay.
I can give you the link to all that. Put in the
Yeah.
note. Yeah.
I'll make sure this goes out before that. I think we were close, but I'll just adjust things and make sure it pops up before that. And so will there be a registration link that I can pop
Yeah.
that into the yeah,
Mhm.
perfect.
Yep. Yep.
Beautiful. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, my dear. It was such a treat. I'm so glad we connected.
Yes. Same. Thank you.
And I'll see you again.
Sounds good.